Hello Sejak and everyone. We from Group 4 want to discuss the topic of forced labor and child labor.
The definition of forced labor is work performed involuntarily and under the threat of any penalty. It includes violence, intimidation, manipulated debt, retention of identity papers, or threats of denunciation to immigration authorities. While child labor is work that harms a child's physical or mental development. It includes employment that endangers children physically, socially, morally, or interferes with their education.
The first article review that we made is about type of forced labor. The article name is A Modern Day Slavery by Kata. This article is totally about a forced labor. This article examines the issue of forced labor, which is a form of a modern slavery day. It explores how forced labor deprives individuals of their fundamental human rights and provides a broad overview of the topic. The Convention mandates that participating states must implement effective measures to prevent the involvement of children in the most severe forms of child labor.
The causes of child labor are many and frequently entwined with social, economic, and cultural elements. Poverty is the root cause of child labor, which also exists in conjunction with a number of other interconnected issues, like an unskilled adult labor force, unfavorable and exploitative worker conditions, a lack of strong labor law and union, inadequate social service, and unwise economic policy created by national and international financial institutions. In poorer nations, all of these have been more debilitating.
The third article that we use to elaborate our topic is Addressing Forced Labor in Supply Chains in California from Kesban Yakchi Sokat 2022. Why we pick this article is because of initiative from foreign countries can help countries that are vulnerable to the issue of forced labor to develop economic and social sustainability. This article states that the presence of the COVID-19 pandemic caused an increase in the exploitation of workers, which is forced labor in California. The state of California faced forced labor in the transportation and agricultural industry. Measures taken to overcome the issue of forced labor in California is to foster community and stakeholder awareness. Other than that, to enforce the California Transparency in Supply Chains Act. Overall, this research demonstrates the importance of CTSCA in combating forced labor in California in the transportation and agriculture industry, and also the role of the community in overcoming the forced labor problem.
Next article is about effort how to address forced child labor. This article is written by Fallon and Zenetos in 1998. The title of this article is Child Labor. There are several strategies to propose to address child labor. In this article, Fallon and Zenetos agreed that the main goals are to lower poverty, educate kids, help working children with support service, increase public awareness, legislate and regulate child labor, and support worldwide efforts to end abusive child labor.
Forced labor and child labor often converge in specific industry and supply chains. Industries seeking to minimize production costs may exploit the vulnerability of both children and adults. Agriculture, manufacturing, and the informal sector are common breeding grounds for this exploitative practice. The demand for cheap labor in global supply chains further connects this issue, as companies may inadvertently and knowingly benefit from both forced and child labor within their complex.
Next is main content issue, a brief description of forced labor and child labor. For forced labor, in Malaysia, the government takes the practice of forced labor seriously even though it is still under control and has set a target of zero forced labor by 2030. The government commitment to dealing with forced labor can be seen through the amendment of the Labour Act 1955, which has new provision to Section B regarding forced labor. Child labor, governments ratified the Convention of the Right of the Child and the Convention on the Right of the Child (CRC), which was implemented on February 1955. This convention focused on the welfare and life of children, who focus on the aspect of survival, protection, development, and participation.
Next, we do some research about how forced labor and child labor is practiced in the Malaysian context. For your information, Malaysia is one of the countries known as a destination and transit country for human trafficking. One of them is that Malaysia is a major producer of palm oil, and there are reports of forced labor and child labor where it is found that migrant workers often receive false promise. They often face exploitative working conditions, long working hours, low pay, and limited freedom of movement. In addition, migrant workers who work on infrastructure projects face conditions such as confiscation of passport, restricted movement, and inadequate living conditions. While the electronic industry shows migrant workers, especially those from countries like Nepal and Bangladesh, experience deceptive recruitment practice and poor working conditions in electronic factories. Most of this forced labor occurs among migrant workers who are under contract. Furthermore, forced labor and child labor are usually found in the informal sectors such as small-scale agriculture, domestic work, and sex trade sector. As for children, they are involved in hazardous work that prevents them from acquiring an education and is open to health risks. In Malaysia also, the textile and clothing industry has faced the issue of labor rights violation, where migrant workers are given low wage, excessive working hours, and poor living conditions. Last but not least, Malaysia has a significant fishing industry, and there are reports of forced labor on fishing vessels where they are subjected to debt bondage, physical abuse, and very long periods at sea.
Next is guideline. For forced labor, among the steps taken from this guideline are related to employment, which is employee service contract. According to the guideline, the service of contract must be in writing and contain clear term and condition of employment and be signed by employer and employee. For child labor, child under the age of 15 are not allowed to work between 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Working more than 3 hours in the row without a break of at least 30 minutes. Work more than 6 hours in a day if attending school, not more than 7 hours, including school hours.
As a developing country that still has the potential for intensive labor in national economic development, Malaysia is not exempt from facing the issue of labor exploitation or forced labor, which is one form of human trafficking. The labor legal framework in Malaysia was created based on the relationship between employees and trade union. In general, the Labour Act 1955 aimed to provide a minimum standard that employers must adhere to in order to fulfill the right of low and medium skilled workers, for example, in relation of wages, working hour, termination of contract, and so on. Next, Malaysia also has laws related to children, namely the Children and Young Person Employment Act 1966. The Children and Young Person Employment Act Amendment 2019 states that a child is a person aged 15 years and under, and young people are those aged 18 and under. This act is a labor law that regulates the employment of children and young people in the private sector and is only applicable in Peninsular Malaysia.
Next, I will be presenting about the implication of implementing forced labor laws in Malaysia. First, we will look onto the positive side of implementing forced labor law. The first one will be protection of workers' rights. Enforcing laws against forced labor has the primary goal of defending workers' rights. These laws protect people from coercive and exploitative practices by establishing standards for salaries, working conditions, and employee treatment. The second one will be prevention of exploitation. Laws against forced labor seek to stop and outlaw acts of exploitation, including debt bondage and human trafficking. The laws promote a more secure and fair workplace by clearly outlining the rules and the penalties for breaking them. The third one will be international compliance. By By enforcing laws against forced labor, Malaysia complies with international labor and human rights conventions and norms. This can enhance the nation's reputation in the international community and make working with foreign partners easier. The fourth one is corporate responsibility. Laws requiring forced labor can motivate companies and sectors of the economy to embrace morality and good supply chain management. In order to stay out of trouble with the law and protect their reputation, businesses might be more likely to keep an eye on and handle forced labor situations. The last one is improve worker welfare. Improve overall worker welfare is a result of clear regulations pertaining to pay, benefits, and working conditions. Consequently, this has the potential to improve worker happiness, raise worker well-being, and create a more efficient labor market. Next, we will look into the negative side of forced labor laws. The first one will be enforcement challenges. Laws against forced labor must be implemented with strong enforcement measures. Corruption, a lack of resources, and difficulties in locating and apprehending criminals might make it difficult to implement these laws. The second one will be resistance from unscrupulous employers. Employers who engage in exploitative practices may resist compliance with forced labor laws. Some may attempt to circumvent regulations or find loopholes to continue unethical practices. The third impact is impact on informal economy. In some cases, forced labor is prevalent in informal sectors where regulatory oversight may be limited. Implementing laws in these sectors may pose challenges and require innovative approaches to ensure compliance. The fourth impact is potential economic impact. Industries that have traditionally relied on cheap and exploitative labor may experience increased operational costs as a result of compliance with forced labor laws. This could impact profit margins and, in some cases, lead to economic restructuring. The final negative impact of forced labor laws is potential impact on employment. Tighter rules can compel with some companies to reevaluate their personnel plans, which might have an impact on employment levels. It is a difficult task to strike a balance between necessity of worker protection and financial concerns.
In conclusion, child labor and forced labor are grave concerns that need to be addressed right away. Individuals are exploited in both situations, having their rights, dignity, and potential violated. Child labor deprives children of their childhood, education, and development, whereas forced labor frequently involves people work through threats of violence. By taking a stand against forced labor and child labor, we can work towards ensuring that all individuals, regardless of age, have the opportunity to live a life free from exploitation and pursue their full potential.